right, y'all, I'm back with another banger for y'all young boys today, man. And hey, man, and I'm back with another special reaction video for y'all young boys today, man. So, all right, y'all, today, we're gonna be talking about the movie Skinamarink. Not gonna lie, y'all, I've heard from a lot of different places that this movie was very hyped up and was one of the scariest movies of our time and this, that, and third. I just heard from a lot of people that this movie Skinamarink was like an evolutionary thing when it comes to the horror film realm and everything. And me personally, I love horror films. Like, horror films and horror movies is my absolute favorite genre, hands down.
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
I was very excited to see this movie because it just had so much hype surrounded by it and everything. And everyone was talking about how it just used this brand new mechanic. Yeah, man, I was absolutely excited to see this movie. And I've watched the movie. I'm going to sit there and give a summary about the plot of the movie and everything. And then we're going to discuss my rating and my thoughts and opinions about the movie. And hell, I'll even look up online some other reviews and then we'll read those reviews also. So the plot of the movie is two kids and their father live in a house, and I think the mother's estranged. I don't know what she did, but basically they all hate her. Everyone in the family just hates her or don't want to be really associated with her except for the youngest child. I forgot the children's names, but that's going to go back later into the movie and everything. And basically one day the two children wake up and their father's gone. The father disappears. He's nowhere to be found, and then all the doors and windows in the house started disappearing slowly. So they're just trapped in this house for God knows how long, and as the days go by, also other things in the house start disappearing. Like, one part of the movie that really took me by surprise, the toilet out of nowhere disappeared and they had to just start using like a bucket in the bathroom, and that was absolutely disgusting. I would have crashed out in that moment. Let me sit there and have to shit in a bucket and have to put it in a corner of a room, funking up the house and everything with no filtration or nothing. It's gonna be a freaking problem. But these two poor kids, they sitting there in this house, no idea when their father's gonna come home. Their mother's estranged, and as time goes by, they're just sitting there passing the time, watching TV, playing with Legos and things of that nature. And another very interesting mechanic of this movie, I think that was hyped up, was everything was told into perspective as if you were watching through a house camera. It's not found footage, but it is kind of found footage. The angles of everything that you was watching the movie through. So let's say you have a camera in your house just laid up on the TV and everything. You would basically be watching the movie as if you're watching through that camera. That's what it felt like. There was just cameras throughout the house just played in like obscure locations, and you just watch the whole movie like that, which I actually kind of enjoyed. Kind of. It was kind of cool because I was thinking that mechanic could have been used for Five Nights at Freddy's. If Five Nights at Freddy's was kind of used that idea and just told the movie story through the security guard that was sitting there watching and going through the nights, and he just was going through all the cameras. We just saw a bunch of creepy and weird stuff happen throughout the nights. That would have been cool. But I enjoyed that part about the movie. But as the time goes by, all of a sudden they started getting demands to do certain tasks from a disembodied voice in the distance. And such as a scene where Kaylee had to go upstairs to their father's room, and then their father encounters their mother also. And the father and mother basically, they started giving her the creepy demands, and then we just cut to a part where she just gone. I'm not really sure what really happened. They didn't really show nothing, but they showed that like basically something happened to her. You know, something happened to her, and we lose Kaylee for a long time. It's a long time before we see any semblance of Kaylee again, but she basically disappears after them running with the father and the mother and stuff like that. And another cool thing that happens in the movie is the kids just started seeing objects just stick to the ceiling or float up to the sky and things of that nature. So Kaylee disappears, the stuff sticking to the ceiling, and then just a small little boy is just left. And he's like really young. He's like 6 years old, and Kaylee had to be like 8 or 10 or something like that. Both these kids are really young, which leads into the creepiness of this movie. And there's a lot of build up, and eventually we get to a part where I guess the disembodied voice makes the little boy cut out his own eye. You don't actually see him do it, but you hear the disembodied voice tell him to take a box cutter and then cut out his own eye. And then there's a point in the movie where also, I guess the demon or the disembodied voice calls 911, because of another thing that happened in this movie, that there was no phone lines that was actively working and it couldn't call the police or anything like that. But now all of a sudden the demon calls the police, and you just hear this creepy message of the little kid trying to call the police station and try to get some help and assistance, but we know it's not him. Fast forward into the movie. To be honest, I don't think really a lot happens. You just see the TV screen, more obscure angles, and then they skip forward in the timeline like 500 something days. So it's like 500 something days where these two children are just stuck in this house with this disembodied voice or this creature or demon, whatever it is. They're stuck in this house for 500 something days. There's some obscure scenes where you just hear the kids screaming in the background and just blood just flying and then going away and then blood flying and going away. It is some creepy scenes in this movie, and I think the biggest thing about this movie that really creeped people out was the fact that you knew that it was two getting tortured. You couldn't see the torture, you couldn't see nothing, but you knew that you knew it was happening. You just couldn't see it. No, you can't see it, but you know these kids through it. You know what I'm saying? And they was going through it for a long time, and then I think the movie ends off where I think that finally see the disembodied voice, and it was kind of like this gradient weird silhouette of a lady or something talking to the children, and then the movie just kind of ends. All in all, that's the plot of the movie, that basically everything in the house disappears. They're stuck with some demon entity, and we just see everything through like security cameras. That's Skinamarink. That is Skinamarink hands down, and I hope y'all really caught that. And now we get to the next part of the video where I'll give my more thoughts and opinions on it, and then we'll read some online reviews about the Skinamarink. Sorry y'all, so let me start off by giving my rating for this movie. In my honest opinion about this movie, I would give it a 4 out of 10. If I had to be 100% transparent and honest, I didn't like this movie.
Am I the only one who understands the complexities of this ambitious cinematic masterpiece? This movie isn't stupid! You're stupid!
I absolutely didn't. Me and my brother sat down and watched this movie. We was having like a scary movie night, and I ain't gonna lie, all the movies we watched that night was absolute dog duty. It was absolutely disgusting, all the movies we watched. It was just trash all the freaking round. But we watched Skinamarink, and it was very boring. In my personal opinion, it was extremely boring. I understand, and I liked how the camera angles, you really couldn't see anything. I like that about it. Like, I like the obscure camera angles, like you was watching through security camera feed or something like that. I liked it to a certain degree, but at the same time, it's like I couldn't see nothing that happened to the directly, you couldn't see. And I feel like for a lot of the audience, if you really can't see what's going on, you know what I'm saying, it just, you lose a connection there, especially with veteran horror fans. It's like, okay, I can hear something's happening, but I can't really see anything that's going on. So I didn't really like that aspect of the movie. And there was a lot of just endless or pointless buildup. My summary of the movie make the movie seem to go by a lot faster than the movie actually did. There was so much filler and fluff in the movie. It was just draining and just so boring. At a certain point, I started just getting on my phone, and then maybe something, then the voice might say something like 30 minutes later after the last time they say something, and try to get the kids to do something. But overall, it just wasn't fast enough, or like, and I don't have a TikTok brain. It wasn't because I have no attention span, nothing like that. No, it's just genuinely because there was just so much filler and gap into the movie. I really couldn't get into the scary elements. And then, like, I think it didn't help that you couldn't see no one's faces. You really couldn't see the kids' faces or anything that's going on. So it's like I couldn't even like connect with the kids and really feel too bad for them. As a human being, I felt really bad, saying, oh my God, these little kids are stuck in this house with this omnipotent, crazy, evil being, and making them do crazy stuff, but like at the same time I can't see it, you know. And Terrifier, I think that this kind of justice, at least at the beginning of the movie Terrifier 3, because at least at Terrifier 3, spoiler warning, you didn't really see Terrifier go up and hack the first, but you saw the aftermath of everything that happened, and I think that just added to the creepiness of it. And then you just heard the squelching and the screams of everything that was going on in that room with Terrifier, you know what I'm saying, chopping up the person at the very beginning of the movie. So I think that actually added, or was actually pretty good. Whereas Skinamarink, you didn't really see anything going on. You didn't see anything going on. You just had to just use a lot of your imagination, and I feel as though that just kind of took away from the movie. So all in all, I gave the movie a 4 out of 10. It was extremely boring to me, but I seen a lot of people hyping it up, and I tried to give it another chance, but it was just so boring and so much suspense and so much buildup. That's my honest opinion. I thought it was boring. I thought it was too much buildup, and I didn't like that I couldn't see anything. That's just my honest take about it. But maybe y'all have a different opinion in the comments. Let me know what y'all thought about Skinamarink in the comments. And now we're gonna go online and read some Skinamarink ratings. Let's see what Google has to say. Oh, this is interesting. So Google actually has, like, it looks like IMBD has a 4.7 out of 10 rating out of 10. So yeah, I don't think I was that far off. I said 4 out of 10. Then we also see Google reviews. They gave a 2.1. They gave Skinamarink a 2.1. Goodness gracious. Yeah, people look like, I don't know, when I was looking up all this stuff on YouTube, everyone was talking about how highly regarded they like this movie and everything, but I didn't really understand the hype. So let's see what they say in the comments. Potential spoilers ahead. Good lord, this has got to be the most overrated movie to recently have come out. ... First of all, this movie takes itself way too seriously. A lot of horror movies are bad for lacking an atmosphere. Well, this movie has the opposite problem. It tries way too hard to make a scary atmosphere, just trying to mold together all the tropes that are actually scary into one, thus making it not scary. There's way too much useless buildup for the eventual payoff that we got. There is so much useless fluff in the middle of the movie that I got so bored and annoyed that when something important happened that was supposed to be scary, I just didn't care. And I'm not gonna lie, I agree with you, Lex, tonight. There was a lot of moments or fluff in the movie where I just couldn't get into like the scary elements. Like by the time something actually scary or kind of scary or creepy happened, I was just so tuned out because they just spent 45 minutes before the first kind of creepy thing that happened, and then there's another like 20 minutes for the next scary thing that happened. It was just so much fluff and just so much just suspense, just unnecessary suspense. Have a scary situation where it's two children stuck in a house with no windows or no way out with a disembodied voice or creature. You don't have to sit there and build no more suspense than that. You just go get the roll and just let all the creepy and crazy stuff just start flying and happening. But I agree with Lexi Knight. Let's read another one. Read a positive one. So my plan is I read a really bad one. I'm gonna read a really 5-star one to see what they liked about the movie. When I was 5 or 6, I have this memory of waking up and wandering downstairs to find this empty house. No parents, no babysitter, nobody. It's faint fraction memory, but I remember an overwhelming feeling of fear that's impossible to describe. A feeling of being very alone and very frightened. I think my mother had popped out to buy tobacco or whatever, but the exact feeling that Skinamarink is tapping into and does this with exceptional skill. Written, directed, and edited by relative newcomer Kyle Edward Ball, or on a measly $15,000, which I agree. Like on a $15,000 budget, you made like what, a $2 million profit. You did a great job with that. But me personally, it just wasn't my cup of tea as I guess a veteran horror movie watcher. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I understand if you have similar experiences with being abandoned or things of that nature in your childhood home. I can see how this hits very close to that feeling of loneliness and abandonment. And if you empathize, I empathize with the children. It did bring me a very high level of empathy for the children, because I really felt bad for them that they was abandoned by their parents essentially, and was just stuck with this creature and alone and stuck in this house. So that element of the movie did build up suspense and did make me get certain feelings that made me think that this movie was going to be really good. But it's not the setup. The setup is absolutely beautiful. I can even get over like the cameras being in obscure places and just being in weird places and things of that nature. But I couldn't get over the fact that it just took so long for anything to happen. Like, it just took so long. You can't see anything, and then it's just so dark, and then the camera angles don't help at times. It's weird. It was very weird for me. I still didn't like it, but I can understand why this person with their anecdotal like experience would have liked this movie or would have loved it. And I still congratulate Kyle Edward for making his first film like this. And hey, but I personally it wasn't my cup of tea. All right, so we'll read this 2-star one. I love horror that's done well, even like slow burners. So let me tell you what this is. This is an artistic take POV from a child's perspective. It does very well and comes across on how this shot. Dark, nightmarish, odd viewings as a small children can find that horror in anything: a creaky door, a distant hallway light in a dark room, etc. So if this condensed into 5 minutes, it will work as an amateur filmmaking project to impress. But the fact they use this exact same trope for nearly an hour and a half is legit insane. That is why this is the worst horror movie to ever come out, even worse than Human Centipede 2. Oh my God, Human Centipede 2 was absolutely nasty work. Absolute nasty work. Was that the one that was in the prison? I can't remember. The prison one was absolutely nasty, especially the scene with the balls. Ooh. Nothing happens. Even when it tries to be subtle and it scares, it completely underdelivers due to its using the same technique. Dark, different angles of the house and things in the house. Kids whispering mixed with very weak angles of things that is meant to progress the movie. The scariest thing about this movie is how long it goes on for, which is legit terrifying. The only reason I gave it a second star is for an artistic take on the POV, how the child means see the mysterious and unexplained in everything, even if that's a shot of an open door for a few minutes a void. I'm not gonna lie, I agree with that one. I agree that if this was a much shorter film, maybe even just 15 to 30 minutes, this could have been a whole different review that I was doing. But it's just the fact that, yeah, a lot of this was just so boring and just drug out, and the suspense buildup was just endless. It was just endless suspense. And then, like the earlier person said, I feel like the payoffs or the actual scary stuff that was happening for it to be a horror movie just wasn't really scary. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't scary. It wasn't creepy enough. And it just didn't pull at my heartstrings enough for me to really care or really get into the movie. So yeah, I think that's where Skinamarink kind of fell short with the long suspense and buildups and the constant buildups they have. Another 1-star reviewer that I see is, I don't think I've ever been so angry with a film. I knew the reviews were low and so I skipped a few times. Then I began reading articles about the scariest horror movies according to science. I saw that online too. That's just why I was so excited for this movie. I was so excited. And one of my favorite categories of horror movies is found footage horror films. So I was very excited for it. Then I actually saw it, and yeah. I think Skinamarink was number 3 or something. Amongst actually good horror films, I also heard you have to just make it past the first 30 minutes. And I heard about how there's no actors and it's sounds and images and blah, blah, blah. So I gave my full undivided attention. Spoiler alert, the science was heart rate while watching. And this one scored such a high score because everyone was getting so pissed off watching it. LOL. So I watched it in an hour and nothing happened at all, ever. Within the whole movie, LOL, it's just camera angles against a middle class houses, rugs, and corners of the wall. The 1 or 2 little spots that maybe are meant to be jump scares aren't even good jump scares and not scary at all. The Legos moving aren't scary at all. I just picture some dude in a room with the lights off and old shitty camera literally picking up some Legos for the camera. LOL. It makes no sense. Stupid as fuck. It's just some kid you never see filming a normal night as a child who up past their bedtime that picked up some high 8 camcorder, and that's it. Goodness gracious. Yeah, this person was just not happy with the movie whatsoever. I can appreciate the innovation of the movie. I did like the obscure camera angles, maybe for Five Nights at Freddy's. Like I said, I think it would have worked for Five Nights at Freddy's if we was watching through the security guard's POV. That would have worked. I think that would have made for a fire movie. But in this regard, I just didn't like the movie either. I ain't gonna go and say it's as hard as this, but yeah, I personally found it boring. I didn't like it either. So everybody was raving about this on TikTok. And as a lover of horror movies like myself and trying new ones out, I said I'll give it a shot. Now I'll give it 3 stars because I understand what the point of the film was and I see what the director was trying to convey. Though like most people, some of the scenes I would hyper focus on and then lose it and then get distracted, so I definitely think it's a bit long and could have cut some of it out. Now everyone is different and applies their own experiences, feelings, etc. This movie tripped me up because 1, the anxiety and the heaviness I felt in my chest were insane. 2, I frequently have sleep paralysis and lucid dreaming, and this is exactly how it feels and looked to me, so expecting that when fully awake and choosing to do so was a wild thing. LOL. Overall, I don't hate it, but I don't love it. I don't think it was a waste of time, but I likely won't watch it again. And I think that's the perfect like kind of middle approach because like, yeah, a lot of things that the movie tried to do, it just went on too long. It was very boring and drawn out. And I think that's probably what the online mixed reviews is, that some people that have similar experiences that gone on in their own personal lives compared to other people that have never really been into it, or maybe they just watch a lot of scary movies and they have a shorter attention span. It's just the different blend of people. It's like if you have to be a very, very specific crowd to, I think, to really understand or really empathize with this movie or connect with this movie.
This movie isn't stupid! You're stupid!
But unfortunately, I just wasn't one of them. I just really found it very boring and very drawn out. But hey, I still give it a 4 out of 10. Let me know what y'all think in the comments about the movie. But overall, yeah, I think that's enough for this video, man. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe if y'all new, y'all. And about y'all. Peace.